Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon, staring at the strange readings on his screen. He had been exploring deep space for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this before. The object floating in the darkness. Ahead of them was huge, much bigger than his own ship. "What do you think it is, Captain?" asked Dr. Lisa Turner. She was the ship's expert on alien things. Her eyes were bright with excitement as she looked at the data. Jake shook his head slowly. "I don't know, Lisa. It's not like any ship we've ever seen before." The thing in space was dark and cold. Ice covered its surface like a thick blanket. It had been drifting through the empty space between stars for a very long time. Jake could tell just by looking at it that this ship was old. Very old. Chief. Engineer Pete Collins walked over to them. His face looked worried. "Captain, I'm getting some strange readings from that thing. There's still power inside it." "Not much, but something is still working in there." Jake felt a chill run down his back. A ship that old should be completely dead. Nothing should be working after floating in space for so long. "Are you sure about those readings, Pete?" "Yes, sir. The energy is very weak, but it's there. Coming from deep inside the ship." Dr. Turner stepped closer to the captain. "Jake, we have to go over there. This could be the discovery of a lifetime. We might be looking at the first real alien ship ever found." Security Chief Maria Santos had been listening to their talk. She didn't look happy. "Captain, with respect, that thing could be dangerous. We don't know what's inside it or why it still has power." Jake looked at each of his crew members. They had been together for 3 years now. He trusted them all with his life. But this decision was bigger than just their safety. If this really was an alien ship, it could change everything for humanity. "Lisa, what can you tell me about the ship's design?" Jake asked. Dr. Turner pulled up more data on her tablet. "The materials are unlike anything we know. The metal seems to absorb light instead of reflecting it. The size is incredible, too. I estimate it's at least 3 times longer than our ship." Communications Officer Ryan Hayes spoke up from his station. "Captain, I've been trying to scan the interior. The readings are very strange. It's like the inside is both empty and full at the same time. My equipment can't make sense of it." Jake walked closer to the main viewing window. The alien ship hung in space like a sleeping giant. Its dark surface was covered with patterns that looked almost like writing, but not like any writing he had ever seen. The ice that covered it sparkled in the light from distant stars. "Pete, is it safe to get closer?" Jake asked. The engineer checked his instruments again. "The power readings are stable. Whatever is working in there isn't getting stronger or weaker. I think it's safe to approach." Dr. Turner was almost bouncing with excitement. "Jake, please. We might never get another chance like this. Think about what we could learn." Maria Santos crossed her arms. "And think about what might go wrong. That ship is older than human civilization. We have no idea what kind of technology is inside it." Jake was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his duty to his crew and his duty to humanity. Both were important, but sometimes they didn't point in the same direction. "All right," he said finally. "We'll move closer, but slowly. Maria, I want your security teams ready. Pete, keep watching those power readings. If anything changes, we back away immediately." As the USS Horizon moved toward the alien ship, the crew could see more details. The hull was covered with designs that seemed to move when they weren't looking directly at them. Strange symbols ran along what might have been doorways or windows. "The ice is thicker in some places than others," Ryan reported. "It looks like it formed over thousands of years, maybe longer." Dr. Turner was taking pictures and measurements. "The construction techniques are completely unknown. I can't even guess how they built something this size." Jake felt the weight of command on his. shoulders. Every decision he made could affect not just his crew, but all of humanity. If this ship contained technology or knowledge, it could help solve many of Earth's problems. But if it was dangerous, he could be putting everyone at risk. "Captain," Pete said suddenly. The power readings just increased slightly. Not much, but something changed. Everyone on the bridge became very quiet. They all looked at the alien ship with new concern. "Is it responding to us?" Jake asked. "I think so," Pete replied. "It's like something inside is waking up." Maria Santos moved toward the captain. "Sir, I strongly recommend we back away now. If something is waking up in there, we need to be at a safe distance." But Dr. Turner stepped forward too. "Or maybe this is exactly what we've been waiting for. First contact with an alien intelligence. We can't run away from the most important moment in human history." Jake looked at the ship again. He could almost feel something watching them from inside that dark hull. The ice that covered it seemed less thick now, as if heat was starting to come from within. "Ryan, any attempts at communication?" Jake asked. "Nothing, Captain. But the energy patterns are getting more complex. Whatever is happening in there, it's spreading through the ship." Jake made his decision. "We're going to dock with it. Maria, prepare a boarding team. Full protective gear and weapons. Pete, keep monitoring the power levels. If they spike too high, we leave immediately." Dr. Turner smiled. "Thank you, Jake. This is the right choice." Maria looked unhappy, but nodded. "I'll have my best people ready, Captain." As they moved closer to the alien ship, Jake wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his life or the most important discovery in human history. The ancient vessel waited for them in the cold darkness. Its secrets hidden behind ice and time got. Something was definitely waking up inside that ship. The question was whether it would be friendly when it fully awakened. The docking bay of the alien ship was dark and cold. Captain Jake Morrison led the boarding team through the airlock, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The air was so cold they could see their breath forming white clouds in front of their faces. "Temperature is -40 degrees, reported Maria Santos, checking her equipment. "The air is breathable, but barely." Dr. Lisa Turner was already taking readings with her instruments. "This is incredible. The walls aren't just metal. They have organic compounds mixed in. It's like the ship is part machine and part living thing." The boarding team moved slowly through the entrance. Their footsteps echoed strangely in the vast space. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above them, and strange shapes lined the walls. "Look at these patterns," Lisa whispered, pointing her light at the wall. "They're not just decorations. I think they're some kind of writing or maybe even a form of art." Jake studied the designs. They seemed to shift and move when he wasn't looking directly at them. The patterns reminded him of flowing water or wind, but they were carved into the metal itself. "Captain, the energy readings are stronger in here," Pete Collins said through the radio from the ship. "Whatever is powering this place is getting more active." The team moved deeper into the alien vessel. The corridors were wide enough for 10 people to walk side by side, but they felt cramped because of the strange architecture. The walls curved in ways that didn't make sense, and doorways appeared to be in impossible places. "This doesn't follow any engineering principles I know," muttered Sergeant Bill Watson, one of Maria's security team. "How can a corridor go up and down at the same time?" Communications Officer Ryan Hayes was walking beside Jake, trying to map the route. "Captain, my instruments are getting confused readings. According to this, we've walked in a straight line, but also somehow we've gone up 3 levels and down 2. Jake felt dizzy just thinking about it. "Stay close together. We don't want anyone getting lost in here." They reached a large chamber filled with strange objects. The room was huge. bigger than the entire bridge of their ship. Tall columns reached from floor to ceiling, and between them stood what looked like sleeping. Pods made of crystal. My God, Lisa breathed. These are hibernation chambers. The pods were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They were clear like glass, but they glowed with a soft blue light. Most of them were empty, but a few still had shapes inside them. Jake moved closer to one of the occupied pods. Inside was a figure that looked almost human, but not quite. It was tall and thin, with pale skin and silver hair. Its face was peaceful, as if it was having a pleasant dream. Are they alive? Asked Ryan. Lisa was scanning the pods with her equipment. Yes, they're alive. The pods are keeping them in some kind of deep sleep. Their life signs are very slow, but they're definitely alive. Maria stepped closer to Jake. Captain, this is bigger than we thought. These aren't just aliens. They're an entire civilization preserved in ice. As they moved through the chamber, they counted hundreds of pods. Most were empty, their contents long gone, but dozens still held sleeping figures. Some looked like the first one they had seen, while others were different. Different shapes, different sizes, but all clearly intelligent beings. The ice on the walls, Lisa said suddenly, it's not just frozen water. It contains biological samples, genetic material from dozens of different species. Jake felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air. You mean this ship is like a museum? Or a library? More than that, Lisa replied. It's like an ark. They were preserving life from across the galaxy. Suddenly, the blue lights in the pods began to pulse faster. The energy readings that Pete was monitoring from the ship spiked upward. Captain, something is happening. Pete's voice crackled through the radio. The power levels are increasing rapidly. One of the pods at the center of the chamber began to glow brighter. The ice around it started to melt, and steam rose from the warming crystal. We need to get out of here, Maria said, raising her weapon. But Jake held up his hand. Wait, look. The figure in the central pod was moving. Its eyes opened slowly, and it looked around the chamber. When its gaze fell on the human boarding team, it didn't look surprised or afraid. It looked relieved. The pod began to open with a soft hissing sound. The figure inside sat up slowly, as if it had been sleeping for a very long time. It was tall and graceful, with features that were both alien and strangely familiar. I don't think it's dangerous, Lisa whispered. Look at its expression. The being climbed out of the pod and stood before them. It was wearing a simple robe that seemed to be made of the same material as the ship's walls. Its silver hair fell to its shoulders, and its eyes held a deep sadness. It spoke, but not with words. The voice came directly into their minds, clear and gentle. Welcome, children of Earth. I am Zara, keeper of the ancients. I have been waiting for you for a very long time. Jake felt his heart racing. First contact with an alien intelligence, and it was speaking to them as if it knew them. You can understand us? He asked aloud. I understand all the languages of the children, Zara replied in their minds. Your species was known to us long before you reached for the stars. Maria kept her weapon ready, but didn't point it at the alien. What do you want from us? Zara looked around the chamber at the sleeping pods. I want to give you a gift and a warning. The knowledge contained in this ship belongs to you now, but with it comes a great responsibility. Dr. Turner stepped forward. You're saying humans are connected to this ship? To your people? You are our children, in a way, Zara said. Created by the ancients to carry on when we could not. Your species has the strength we lost long ago. Jake felt the weight of her words. What happened to the ancients? Zara's expression grew darker. We were forced to flee. Something terrible is coming. Something that devours worlds and civilizations. We preserved what we could, and went to sleep, hoping our children would grow strong enough to face what we could not. The other pods in the chamber began to glow brighter. More figures were stirring in their crystal beds. "The awakening has begun," Zara said. "The long sleep is ending, and the final battle approaches." Jake looked at his team. They were no longer just explorers who had found an old ship. They were witnesses to the awakening of an ancient race, and the inheritors of a cosmic war they didn't understand. "What do we need to do?" Jake asked. Zara smiled, and for the first time, she looked hopeful. "Learn, prepare, unite your people. The enemy that destroyed our civilization is stirring again, and humanity must be ready." The chamber filled with the soft sounds of pods opening and ancient beings taking their first breaths in millions of years. Captain Jake Morrison watched in amazement as more pods opened throughout the chamber. Ancient beings stepped out one by one, their movements slow and careful after sleeping for so long. Each one looked different from the others, but all shared the same graceful appearance and sad, wise eyes. Zara moved closer to the human team. Her bare feet made no sound on the cold metal floor. "You must have many questions," she said, her voice still speaking directly into their minds. "Are you really saying that humans are related to your people?" Dr. Lisa Turner asked. Her voice shook with excitement and fear. "Not related by blood," Zara replied, "but you were shaped by our hands. Long ago, the ancients found a young species on a small blue world. You were clever and strong, but you needed guidance to reach your full potential." Jake felt his world turning upside down. "You're talking about Earth? About humanity?" "Yes. We watched your species grow and learn. We gave small gifts to help you along the way. A push toward fire, toward tools, toward the stars. We prepared you for the day when you would need to stand where we could not." Maria Santos kept her weapon ready but lowered. "What exactly are you preparing us for?" Zara's expression grew dark. She gestured to the walls of the chamber, and suddenly the metal surfaces began to glow. Images appeared on them like moving pictures, showing space, and stars and terrible things moving between them. "The Devourers," she said. "They come from beyond the edge of the galaxy. They consume everything in their path. Stars, planets, entire civilizations. They turn it all into fuel for their endless hunger." The images on the walls showed massive, dark shapes moving through space. They swallowed whole solar systems, leaving nothing but empty darkness behind them. "We fought them once," Zara continued. "The ancients had an empire that spanned half the galaxy. We had technology beyond your current understanding. We had weapons that could destroy stars and shields that could protect entire worlds." "But you lost," Jake said quietly. "We lost," Zara agreed. "Not because we were weak, but because we had grown too comfortable. We had forgotten how to fight for survival. We had forgotten what it meant to struggle." More ancients gathered around them. They were all different, Jake realized. Some were tall and thin like Zara. Others were shorter and broader. Some had skin that seemed to sparkle. Others had patterns that moved across their bodies like living tattoos. "We are the last," one of them said. His voice was deep and sad. "All that remains of 1,000 different worlds and species." Lisa was taking readings with her equipment. "The genetic diversity is incredible. You're not just one species, are you?" "We are the survivors," Zara explained. "When the Devourers came, we gathered the best and strongest from every world we could reach. We tried to preserve what we could before the end." "How long have you been sleeping?" Ryan Hayes asked. "By your time measurement, 65 million years," another ancient replied. "We went into the great sleep hoping that our children would grow strong enough to face what we could not." Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "And now they're coming back?" Zara nodded. "The long sleep is ending, Because the enemy stirs again. Our instruments detect their movement at the galaxy's edge. They have been feeding in the void between galaxies, growing stronger. Soon they will return to finish what they started. The images on the walls changed, showing maps of the galaxy. Red dots appeared at the outer edges, moving slowly inward like a disease spreading. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. "Perhaps 50 of your years?" Zara said. "Maybe less." The Devourers move slowly, but they are thorough. They will consume everything in their path as they approach the core worlds. Maria stepped forward. "What makes you think humans can succeed where you failed?" For the first time, Zara smiled. "Because you have something we lost. You still know how to fight for survival. You still remember hunger and struggle. You have not forgotten what it means to be desperate." She gestured to the walls again, and new images appeared. These showed human history, wars and struggles, the rise and fall of civilizations. "We watched your species grow," she continued. "We saw how you fought against impossible odds, how you survived ice ages and plagues and wars, how you reached for the stars even when you had barely learned to fly." One of the other ancients spoke up. "The ancients became too peaceful. We forgot that sometimes survival requires violence. We forgot that sometimes the only way to preserve life is to be willing to destroy your enemies." Lisa was scanning the walls with her equipment. "The technology stored in this ship, could it help us fight these Devourers? That is why we preserved it," Zara said. "Weapons that can crack planets, shields that can protect star systems, ships that can travel between galaxies in the blink of an eye. All of it is yours now." Jake looked around the chamber at the dozens of awakening ancients. "Will you help us? Will you teach us how to use these things?" "We will teach you what we can," Zara replied. "But we cannot fight for you. The Devourers defeated us because we had become too dependent on our technology. We forgot that the greatest weapon is not a machine, but the will to survive." The chamber filled with the sounds of more pods opening. Hundreds of ancients were awakening after millions of years of sleep. Each one carried the knowledge of lost civilizations and extinct species. "There is something else," Zara said quietly. "The Devourers are not just destroyers. They are intelligent. They learn from every species they consume. They will know about humans now. They will know about Earth." "You mean they're already coming for us specifically?" Maria asked. "They will come for everyone," Zara said. "But yes, they will be particularly interested in the species that awakened us. They will want to understand what makes humans different from the ancients." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "How do we prepare an entire species for a war they don't know is coming?" "Carefully," Zara said. "Too much knowledge too quickly could destroy your civilization from within. But too little, and you will not be ready when the time comes." She walked to the center of the chamber and placed her hand on a pedestal that Jake hadn't noticed before. The entire ship hummed with power, and the walls began to glow brighter. "The great library is opening," she announced. "The knowledge of 1,000,000 worlds is now accessible. But remember, knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. Use it well, children of Earth." Jake looked at his team, knowing that their lives had just changed forever. They were no longer just explorers. They were now the messengers who would carry the news of humanity's greatest challenge back to Earth. The war for the survival of all intelligent life in the galaxy was about to begin. The great library of the ancients came alive around them. The walls of the chamber transformed into flowing screens of light, showing images and data from across the galaxy. Captain Jake Morrison felt overwhelmed by the vast amount of knowledge surrounding them. "This is everything," Zara said, her voice filled with both pride and sadness. "The history of every civilization we encountered, the technology of 1,000 worlds, the genetic patterns of 10,000 species." Dr. Lisa Turner moved closer. to one of the glowing walls. Her equipment could barely process the information flowing past. How do we even begin to understand all of this? Slowly, Zara replied. Your minds are not ready for everything at once. But we can start with the most important knowledge. The weapons and defenses you will need to survive. Jake watched as the images on the walls changed to show massive ships unlike anything humans had ever built. They were sleek and powerful, with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. These are the warships of the ancients, one of the other awakened beings explained. They were built specifically to fight the Devourers. Most were destroyed in the final battles, but the designs remain. Maria Santos studied the weapon systems displayed on the walls. These energy weapons, they're more powerful than anything we have. But how do we build them? The fabrication technology is here as well, Zara said. Machines that can build other machines. Systems that can turn raw materials into finished starships in days instead of years. Communications Officer Ryan Hayes was trying to record everything he could. Captain, this is incredible. With this technology, we could build a fleet that would make every human military look like toys. But Jake was thinking about something else. Zara, you said the Devourers learn from every species they consume. What did they learn from the ancients? Zara's expression grew troubled. They learned our weaknesses. They learned how to turn our own technology against us. They learned to mimic our appearance and infiltrate our worlds. Shapeshifters? Maria asked, gripping her weapon tighter. Not exactly, another ancient said. They can take the memories and knowledge of those they consume. They can become perfect copies of the beings they destroy. Lisa looked up from her. Readings. Then how do we fight something that can become us? With something they cannot copy, Zara said. The one thing that made your species perfect for this war, your unpredictability. Jake frowned. What do you mean? The ancients became too logical, too predictable. We followed patterns and rules. The Devourers learned to anticipate our moves. But humans, you are different. You make decisions based on emotion and instinct. You take risks that no logical being would take. The images on the walls changed again, showing human history. Battles where smaller forces defeated larger ones through unexpected tactics. Inventions that came from wild ideas rather than careful planning. You call it chaos, Zara continued. We call it your greatest strength. The Devourers cannot predict what you will do, because even you do not always know. One of the ancients moved closer to Jake. There is something else. Something we discovered too late to save ourselves. The Devourers are not just one species. They are a collection of every species they have consumed. They have become a hive mind that contains the knowledge of the entire galaxy. But that also means they have weaknesses, Lisa said suddenly. If they contain all those different species, there must be conflicts within them, contradictions. Zara smiled. Now you begin to understand. The Devourers are powerful, but they are not perfect. They carry the memories of their victims, including the pain and fear of being consumed. This makes them unstable. The chamber filled with more awakening. Ancients, each one carried specialized knowledge, different pieces of the puzzle that humanity would need to solve. We cannot fight this war for you, Zara said, but we can teach you. We can give you the tools and knowledge you need. The rest depends on the strength and courage of your species. Jake looked around at his team. They were all thinking the same thing. How do you tell an entire planet that they are about to face a threat that destroyed a galactic civilization? How do we prepare Earth for this? He asked. Carefully, Zara replied. Too much truth too quickly will cause panic. Too little will leave you unprepared. You must find leaders who can handle the knowledge can begin building slowly. The walls around them began to dim slightly. The ancient ship was using enormous amounts of energy to maintain the library display. "We must rest soon," one of the ancients said. "The awakening has drained much of our remaining power. But first, we will transfer the essential knowledge to your ship's computers." Ryan worked frantically to prepare the USS Horizon systems to receive the data. "Captain, we're going to need massive storage upgrades just to hold a fraction of this information. The knowledge will adapt to your technology," Zara assured him. "It will present itself in ways your systems can understand." As the data transfer began, Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He was no longer just a ship captain. He was now humanity's first ambassador to an ancient civilization and the bearer of news that would change everything. "Zara, will you come with us? Will you help us prepare?" She shook her head sadly. "We cannot survive in your world for long. We have been asleep too long, and our bodies are too adapted to the conditions of this ship. But we will send teachers with you, volunteers who can help guide your preparation." 3 of the younger ancients stepped forward. They looked different from the others, more solid and less ethereal. "We volunteered for this duty long ago," one of them said. "We prepared ourselves to live among your people when the time came." Jake nodded. "Then we'll take you home with us. Earth's governments will need to know about this threat. Remember," Zara said as the data transfer continued, "the Devourers are still 50 years away. That seems like a long time, but it is not. You will need to unite your world, build new technologies, and prepare for a war unlike anything in human history." Lisa was studying the weapon designs. "These plasma cannons, these shield generators, they're centuries beyond our current technology. How do we even begin to build them?" "One step at a time," Zara replied. "Start with the basic principles and work your way up. The knowledge will guide you." As the USS Horizon prepared to leave the ancient ship, Jake looked back at the chamber, full of awakening ancients. They had given humanity the greatest gift possible, a chance to survive. But now came the hardest part, convincing the people of Earth that their greatest challenge was approaching from the stars, and that their survival depended on becoming something more than they had ever been before. The war for the galaxy was coming, and humanity would have to prove they were worthy of inheriting the legacy of the ancients.